This is part 2 of my Urban EDC Backpack version 3.0. In part 1, we went through all the items that are stored externally on the backpack, as well as the items that are stored in the smaller pockets. Now let's continue on going through all the items that are stored in the main compartment area. Let's get started. Now let's start going through all the modules that reside in the main compartment area of the Vanquist Trident 20 backpack, which leverages the shelves that they use for keeping everything divided. And that works really well for the Eagle Creek packet quarter cubes that I like to use with my EDC setup. So normally this is zipped up like this. The Vanquist Trident 20 has a kind of a unique zipper design. Let's see if I can do it like that. All right, and so normally I'll just grab whatever in the top area here, and you could use this little buckle here for help keeping it enclosed. And so for this first item that I grab the most is my electronics compartment. Let's take a look now at the tabletop. My electronics module consists mostly of cables and other electronic devices that I find to be useful in an urban environment, especially as an urban commuter. So let's open it up, we'll put all the cables and everything out on the table, and we'll talk about all of them. Here are all the items out of that electronics module. Again, I'm using the Eagle Creek packet quarter cube. I have it in black. Black represents tools for my system, and I guess in my line of work, these are kind of tools of the trade. So let's start here in the top right-hand corner. I like having this Ounce Curve portable Bluetooth speaker. It's a very loud speaker for the size. It's a good quality too, and it pairs extremely nicely with any kind of smartphone through Bluetooth, also through a wired connection as well. You could do that. So for me, this is kind of like a conference room on the go. So I'm able to go anywhere, put it on, connect it to the smartphone, and able to do a conference call with a group of people. Also, if you want to play any kind of MP3, oftentimes I find myself in a situation where I wanted to play some kind of music or a music video or something, and the speakers just weren't cutting it on the smartphone, and so busted out the Ounce Curve, totally saves the day. It's an awesome speaker. Next in the top left-hand corner, this is the RAV Power 24-watt 2.4 amp dual USB travel charger. This is a very efficient travel charger. It charges things extremely fast. You have that iSmart, which is a RAV Power kind of staple. So again, you have the 2.4 amps for both of those USBs. A lot of times you'll see one has 2.4, 2.1, and the other one has 1.1. These have 2.4, which is really great. And then I pair them with the Media Bridge USB cables. So these are 3-foot cables. And this is, again, made by Media Bridge. These are a little bit higher quality than the ones that you get as a stock type cables with devices. Those are usually pretty cheap. These are a little bit nicer, and they pair really well with the RAV Power travel charger. I really like this device. Next, I like having an auxiliary cable. This is the IXCC 3-foot auxiliary cable. Just nice having auxiliary cable for whether you're in a rental car or in your own car, or you want to pair it with the speaker. I find that people are often asking me for an auxiliary cable, and now I have it. Next, it's similar to the auxiliary cable. I like having the HDMI cable as well. This is made by Amazon Basics. That's a 3-foot HDMI cable. It works really well when paired with my laptop. If I need to put something on a projector or on a large screen TV, maybe even play a YouTube video, and I can do it that way. And oftentimes people, hey, I don't have an HDMI cable, and I happen to have one, so it works really well for me. And then next, I just have a little Anchor Lightning USB cable just for pairing with any kind of Apple devices. And those are all the items that I carry in my electronics module. The next module in the main compartment area is white, and it represents my Hygiene module. I'm using the Eagle Creek Travel Gear Luggage Packet Spectre quarter packing cube because it comes in white, which works extremely well with my Hygiene module. So let's take all the items out now and go over them. I periodically need to use the items out of my Hygiene module during the workday, but they're mainly served to prepare for those unexpected overnighters, and I like having my own supplies with me. So let's just go through all the items really quick. I have some wet ones, antibacterial individual hand wipes. They also work well for wiping down surfaces. Next I have just several Q-tips. They work not only for hygiene, but also they could be used in conjunction with the first aid module. I also include just some dental hygiene items. I have a toothbrush, a small little toothpaste, and some dental floss. I get these for free every time I go to the dentist for a cleaning, and I always request them because I include them in my kits. So next time you go to the dentist, just make sure you request for the free samples. They'll probably give it to you. So next, I like having a little bit of deodorant with me just for those occasions that you might not be smelling too well. So a little bit of Degree deodorant. You guys have probably noticed that I'm kind of like a YouTube hand model, and sometimes you'll see little ashy sections of my hand. I like having some of the Eucerin calming cream. Sometimes they get a little bit irritated, and this totally saves the day when needed. These next two items are also items that are more for saving the day when needed. So I have a little bit of sunscreen for the rare times in the Seattle area when the sun actually comes out, and then I have a little tube of this bug spray. I don't often have to use it, but when it's needed, you really need it. So I like having the insect repellent there. there. There's different kinds that you could get. I usually pick one or the other and include them in my Urban EDC Backpack. And those are all the items out of my Hygiene module. The next module in bright red represents my first aid module. Let's take a look now at the tabletop. This is my first aid module. This doesn't include the items that are more trauma related that are included in the main backpack area. This is more for cuts, burns, boo-boos, things like that. And I have it in a red Eagle Creek packet quarter cube because for me, red represents first aid. And whenever possible, I like making my own first aid kits just because I'm more familiar with the kit. I know where everything that's in it and where it's at. So let's open it up and go through all the items that are included in my first aid module. Here are all the items out of my first aid module. As you can see, they're divided into various categories. I'm using Ziploc bags for some of them. I also have some of the lock sack element protection bags. And they're just kind of divided up to help me find everything a little bit more easier. So a lot of the items that you see here are refills that you could get over at REI for some of their first aid kits, which I think work really well for the things that I like building myself. So let's just start off. We'll start over here. As you can see, this is one of the medical refill kits. It has a few different pain relievers, also has some other things like allergy relief, anti-diarrhea, electrolyte replacement. I really like this particular medical refill. It's available at REI. It has a nice variety of different items, and because they're packaged in the manufacturer package, they work really well for going through TSA, and rather than having just some random pills sitting in there. So just a little medical refill kit. Next, I have various Band-Aids. Again, this is another one of those refills. Adhesive bandage refill has all sorts of different strips, fingertip, knuckles, strips for wound closures. There's just a whole bunch of them in there, and I go through Band-Aids fairly regularly because I oftentimes cut myself. Next, this is kind of the kit that I have for any kind of alcohol wipes, antiseptic toilet wipes, bug sting relief, things like that. A few different wet ones are also in here. So this is kind of what I use for basically for cleaning for first aid. Next, I have a few different items for kind of blood stoppers. So I have a few different maxi pads in here. These are used just for stopping blood loss, and they work really well for that. That's what they're designed for. I also have just a single tampon over here, also for to kind of save the day for feminine hygiene type needs. So I include that in my first aid module. I guess if you were to have a bullet wound, you could also use it for that, although I've never run into that situation myself. Next, I have a nice large tube of Neosporin. This stuff's awesome. This has the pain relief plus pain relief ointment. Works really well. Just like having a lot of it, even though I have some of it individually wrapped in the triple antibiotic ointment packets that are in there. But nice little tube of Neosporin. Awesome stuff. Again, I have some medical tape over here. Works really well for the large bandages that I have in here, also for the maxi pads if you want to kind of double it up a little bit. Over here we have some moleskin in here, also some ace bandages, and that's just kind of my large bandage area. It looks like it's a little light. I might need to fill it up in a little bit, but that's what I use for my larger bandages. Also have some backup medical gloves that you see here. And then we have this is kind of like an ace elastic bandage used for various tasks. And right over here we just have various safety pins that it could be used for kind of mending any kind of clothing, even bandages like that. These are oftentimes included in first aid kits, so I included it in mine. And those are all the items that are included in my first aid module. Next, in the main compartment area, we have a green module that represents my food module. This is my food module. It's stored in an Eagle Creek packet quarter cube in green because green represents food in my prepping systems. So food is one of the big three in prepping. You have water, food, and shelter. And while I don't really want to have any kind of emergency food for my EDC backpack because it gets used semi-regularly, I like having snacks in here. And this particular module is constantly changing. The items inside of it depend on what we happen to have in the cupboards at the time. And so this just kind of shows what I have in it right now. And I'm really addicted to these kind bars. So I have various flavors of the kind bars. If you haven't tried these, they're really, really good. A lot of flavor with them. They hold well in the heat as well. Like if you were to keep this in your car and if you were to have a candy bar, for example, and melt all over the place, you don't have that problem with these. You do have to rotate them out maybe about once a year or so, but I find that I go through them fairly quickly. But this particular, as I mentioned, this particular module is constantly changing. So oftentimes I have items there for Kid Prepper, different snacks that he likes to have, gummy snacks for kids, dried fruit, different types of granola bars. So the food module is constantly changing depending on what kind of snacks we have. We have a few more modules remaining. This one's the closest one I could find to purple, which represents clothes. This is my clothing module. I'm using another Eagle Creek Spectre quarter cube, and this is the one that I could find that's closest to purple, because purple represents clothing in my prepping system, although I think the official color of this is beet. And so the items that are in this clothing module kind of vary depending on what the season is. So if it's in the wintertime, it's going to be beefed up a little bit with more items for warmth. So this is just what I have in it currently. Here are all the items out of the clothing module. As you can see, there's not that many, but I feel that all of them warrant being included in my Urban EDC backpack. The first item is just some work gloves. These are black Majestic leather work gloves. I like having those for outdoor activities, working outdoors, also for any kind of auto type repair, the unexpected type thing, and it could be used for warmth in the wintertime. I usually have the custom Leathercraft handyman gloves, but right now I'm just kind of testing these ones out. So next, I always have a bandana for EDC purposes. This one's just a blue one. There's so many different uses for a bandana, ranging from medical to clothing to hygiene. There's just a lot of uses for them, and so I like having it as part of my EDC. This next item I've never really had to use for EDC purposes, but it gives me peace of mind knowing that I have it. It's just an emergency bivvy. I would hate to not have this when I actually needed to use it. It just gives me peace of mind, and that's kind of what prepping is sometimes. It's just, feeling comfortable going out and knowing that you have the supplies that are needed in an emergency. Shelter is kind of one of the big three, and since I don't have a shelter module, I include this item in my clothing module. And those are all the items included in my clothing module. And last but not least, we have my communications module, which sits there at the bottom. Let's take a look now at the tabletop. This is my comms module. As you can see, it's the only module that is not an Eagle Creek quarter cube. That's because Eagle Creek doesn't make a yellow version of the quarter cube, so I had to go with a competitor. So this is the Ergodyne Arsenal clamshell organizer, the small version in yellow. So for me, comms means anything that could be used for sending or retrieving information. So not just radios, but I also include things like illumination items, flashlights, lanterns, signal flares, things like that in my comms module. Also whistles, other signaling devices, and anything that's used to kind of charge or power those items for batteries, I include those in there. And then lastly, I include navigation items like a compass, for example, and I consider all of those at least yellow for my prepping systems. So let's open this up really quick. As I mentioned, it's a clamshell opening, so it has everything nicely organized. I'm going to take all the items out of here, put them on the table, and we'll go through them. Here are all the items that I include in my comms module. Now I do have a few other comms items that I keep in the main backpack area just for quick access, things like a whistle, but these are some of the other items that are included in comms but that I don't need as immediate access to. So the first item that I have is a compass over here. This pairs with the maps that I include in the backpack. This is a Breton Classic compass. I've had this one for several years. It works really, really nice. So just a compass over here for navigation. Next, I fell in love with this little lantern over at SHOT Show 2015. This is made by Olympia. This is the Olympia rechargeable waterproof lantern with 180 lumens. So it's really cool. The best part about it is the mounting capabilities. I think it kind of looks like an R2-D2 type lantern, but the mounting capabilities are the coolest thing about it. So you could use it as a hanging lantern in a tent, for example. You could also use it just kind of lean for any kind of reading if you want to do that. And then the best part about it is that you have some magnets over there, so you could put it up to any kind of metal wall and use it as a lantern in that way also if you're doing any kind of vehicle repair. And this thing gets really bright, so let me turn it on really quick. I'm not sure if it's actually going to be represented well with the studio lights that I have here. But this is a very bright little lantern. I really like this one. You have multiple modes on it. Turn it off over there. And then I also have the charging cable that goes with it. So again, this is the Olympia lantern. Actually, this one's a favorite of kid preppers too, so sometimes he needs a nightlight, and I have a lantern with me that's rechargeable. So I also include some batteries just for the various electronic devices that I have. I have 4 AA batteries and 4 AAA batteries. They're just normal Energizer. I even have a couple Kirklands in there. These are kind of giveaway batteries instead of using the rechargeable ones, which are a little bit more expensive. And then I have this little blue cell battery storage case. It's really nice because you can kind of use it as a kind of modules in itself, so I could divide them up like that. And so I have my AAA batteries, AA batteries, and you could get them in a pack of 4. It's very cheap. So some batteries. Next I have a radio. So I like having a radio with me for EDC purposes. Sometimes I'll carry a smaller one with me just for listening to, sports talk radio. But I like having this one to be used in an emergency because this one includes a NOAA weather band with it, which I think is good to have for an emergency type situation. So I did a review of this one. This is the Kato KA210 pocket radio, AM, FM, and NOAA. Very affordable one as well at $20. And then the last item that I include in this particular module, this is the Smitty Universal Flashing Object LED Safety Light. And the reason that I'm carrying this is that I got freaked out a few times doing some late night car repair without proper equipment. So I have a lot of that equipment in my vehicles, but sometimes I'm in other people's vehicles that might not have the equipment. And so this is a high visibility LED safety light. It's visible up to a mile at nighttime, of about 100 feet in daytime it listed, and it has various modes on here. So again, the best thing about this is that it has magnetic connections. So you could connect it to the side of a vehicle, for example. You could also put it, maybe a few hundred feet away from the vehicle as you're doing repairs, put the hazards on that vehicle, and then you'll have this one as a little bit of a warning signaling light. So you can turn it on, it's going to have a rotating one. There's various modes with it, whatever one you like to have on it. It lasts for multiple hours, for over a couple days worth of this thing. So there's multiple modes that you could go with it, and this just gives me kind of peace of mind for doing late night kind of repairs and where I want to be extremely visible. This thing is very, very bright and nice. So again, this is the Smitty built Universal Flashing Object LED Safety Light. And those are all the items that I include in my comms module. Here's a closer look at the shelving system that comes with the Vanquist Trident 20 backpack. Now when you order this backpack, I believe it comes with around 3 of them. So if you want to have additional shelves like me, make sure you contact Vanquist directly. Say, hey, the Urban Prepper told me to come contact you. They'll be able to get you situated with an order for additional shelves that you could use for multiple modules inside of the main compartment area. I just have a few remaining items in this main compartment area. Now I don't fully leverage all the hidden pockets that are included with the Vanquist Trident 20. I find that oftentimes I lose things in there, but I do leverage this larger one that you see here. So I just have a couple items in here. One is for communications. I just have just a chemical light. I find this to be useful in emergency situations. Also, it works as a great little night light for Kid Prepper, and I really like this particular brand. So this is a 6-inch snap light. Next, you always want to have a food water shelter. So I like having something for filtering water. So this is a clean sip water filter in a straw. As you can see, it's a real nice long one. It comes in a little plastic tube like you see here. Some of the other ones, they're a little stumpier, and you kind of have to piece it together. This is kind of more like the standard length of a straw, which I really like. So this is the clean sip water filter in a straw. And finally, we come to the last item in my Urban EDC backpack, and this is the most used item, which is a laptop. So one of the main reasons that I want to go with the Trident 20 is that it has a designated laptop sleeve in here that's padded, has an additional Velcro strap for helping keep it secure. And so in here I have a 15-inch laptop. This particular one's a Samsung. We also have a Dell, and it fits really nicely in here. The Vanquist Trident 20 is able to support up to a 15-inch laptop, and that is the final item included in my Urban EDC backpack. As always, an EDC is very custom and specific to your particular needs, not really anyone else's. And this version of my Urban EDC backpack is no exception. It's all based off of where you live, what the region's like, the weather, what kind of work you're in, what kind of gear you like having on you. And that's kind of what is reflected in this version of my Urban EDC backpack. So while not all the gear might not be applicable to your needs, I feel that organization is a little bit more universal and might be able to be leveraged. So the organization strategy that I'm using in this particular version of the backpack has worked very well for me. It might be able to be leveraged in your particular setups. So again, the PDF document has a little bit more description on all the modules that I include and all the items on why I include it, and will hopefully provide you with a little bit more information on why everything was chosen. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this video. Please feel free to leave any kind of comments below in the comments section. And thanks again for watching my video featuring my updated Urban EDC Backpack version 3.0. See you guys.